All right, what is going on, everyone? And welcome back to the Mets Weekly Podcast as we are live at this very moment on YouTube and on X to recap the Mets versus White Sox series, as well as the latest news and rumors in New York Mets land. But before we get into that, I want to remind everyone to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel for new episodes of our show that are recorded live after every series of games during the regular season. For those of you who are watching or listening on playback, you want to join the conversation in the future, make sure to turn on those post notifications to know when we go live. For those of you in the live chat right now, we love reading your comments, your questions, your concerns, and if you feel like you're being ignored, you're not being ignored. We're just going to star them throughout the show. We'll try to pull up as many as we can to keep the flow of the conversation going. Make sure to follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok for my co-hosts right here, Frank's instant post-game reactions after every single regular season game, which are titled the Mets Frankly Post-Game. For our audio listeners, make sure to follow us on all your favorite listening platforms to not miss the audio version of new episodes that go up at 9 a.m. the following day. Also, make sure to give us a 5-star review. It'll be greatly appreciated. So without further ado, let's get into episode number 139 of our show. And Frank, let me know how many times I've said this. Another series goes by. More inefficient baseball.
I mean, how many episodes have we done this season? I feel like maybe every single episode we've opened.
Yeah, maybe one or two. We're like, okay, this was a little bit better. But just more baseball that is not good baseball. And luckily, you played a team that is so awful, but you didn't play them like they were so awful. So again, I'm not satisfied with this. I don't like it. I think it's a settle. I thought they could have done better in this series. You know, the wins and losses are wins and losses, but Frank, I just like this is just not great baseball that I am seeing. And I don't care if we're getting wins or losses out of it. Eventually, this is going to catch up to you if changes are not going to be made. Sorry.
I mean, well, to some extent, it already has, because we've been talking about this since the beginning of the season. Everyone's like, "Oh, they're in first place, one of the best records in the league. What are you guys complaining about? Why so negative? Why so mad about?" You know, as each series is going on, the gap between them and the Phillies is becoming, a little more and a little more, and it's just like this is not going to get it done because you have to have expectations based off of previous success, but also what success you are projected to have. And we've talked about it a bunch of times, but you were in National League Championship Series last year. Like, let's not forget that. That's very, very important because that's not where the Mets normally are. So you got there. And then you said, okay, well, we're going to try to take the next step by then signing Juan Soto to an $800 million contract. So you have the expectations of, at minimum, National League Championship Series. The kind of baseball that they have been playing, especially recently, is not National League Championship Series caliber. It is just not going to get it done because, Stanley said it here that the Mets should have swept the White Sox, and I agree 100%.
They were one hit away from sweeping the Dodgers.
They were one hit away from sweeping the Dodgers, and the Dodgers have been struggling in May too. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sure. That happens. Fine.
But this isn't a Dodgers show. That's
it's
thing.
Not a Dodgers show.
What they're doing.
It's not a Dodgers show. The Dodgers have a ring. We don't. So that's another thing to also consider. But I feel like too is just that I like we've said, we don't really see them getting better. But this series, you don't want to go into expectation like, oh, you're going to win every game. Like, you can't win them all. Totally understandable. 162 game season. But there are certain series that you get where it's like, you really should sweep them because the White Sox were absolutely terrible last season. They're still terrible. And again, it's like if you have National League Championship Series expectations, you should be sweeping them. And they just barely escaped the first game. I mean, that's the other thing too, is that game one of the series was really headed in the direction of a Mets loss. And it was very frustrating. The offense we're talking about offense struggling. The offense was doing literally nothing that first game. I mean, they got it at the very, very end. They're able to, get off the White Sox bullpen. But then even yesterday, like, what was going on here? I mean, how are you giving up 9 runs to the White Sox? How are you knocking out their starting pitcher in the second inning? And all you come away with is 4 runs. And you're facing a lot of former Mets, guys who you felt were not good enough to be on your team, guys end up in the minor leagues, Adrian Hauser, Mike Vassell, and these guys were dominating the Mets. It was just
Yeah.
like the most bizarre thing that like you're getting carved up by guys who are not very good. And the Mets have been so bad with the runners in scoring position. The White Sox are one of the very few teams that are worse than the Mets with runners in scoring position. They're going to face one of the other them this weekend coming up against Colorado, but it's just so interesting. We look at like the bottom 5 teams with runners in scoring position and their average. You have the Mets in there, the White Sox and Rockies, like I said, both terrible. The Rangers, hitting coach, goodbye. Orioles, they made some firing to their coaching staff, but the Mets, everyone's job is totally secure, and it's because the record is different. But what those teams don't have is this excellent pitching that the Mets do. So it's like if the Mets didn't have this pitching,
Orioles definitely don't.
The Orioles definitely don't. But it's like if you didn't, you're either an absolutely terrible team with this kind of offensive performance, or you're firing coaches. So it's just like I don't understand why other teams that are this embarrassing that actually care about baseball, like the Orioles and Rangers, they fire their coaches. The Mets don't. So it's like there's something that's just very odd to me there. And it's like they can't just say, "Oh, the hitting coaches get to stay because the pitching is so great." Like that, those have nothing to do with one another.
No, it should not be that should not be an excuse for a team that has spent this much money on this lineup as well. Again, when we talk about this Chicago team, if they were to beat up on them, I wouldn't be celebrating because they should beat up on them. Again, it's both, but it's from both sides. You should not be losing to them. And whether somebody's saying, "Oh, they're facing a good pitcher," you have an expensive lineup that's supposed to beat good pitching. Like these types of excuses, these types of ways that people try to work around is like, "Oh, well, baseball is a game of failure." Well, you brought in pieces that make sure that you fail less than the usual team. These guys are getting paid to do a job. And I will constantly say with the argument, and trust me, we're eventually going to get into it. It's getting very, very close of that discussion that everybody wants to have about the hitting coaches with Eric Chavez. People will constantly tell me as well, hitting coaches don't matter. So what are they there for? Not to mention in the context of the New York Mets, they have 2 hitting coaches. 2. So what's the point if that's not a perfect emphasis of influence? That doesn't make any sense. That's basically just saying like, "Hey, Stevie Wonder, here's a car to drive." That makes no sense. 0 sense. Coaching matters. And this team is not well coached. They aren't. They're not well coached. And it's not even just the hitting. In the field as well. Base running as well. We saw a whole mishap there with, what was it, Brandon Nimmo. Like those are the types of mishaps that good teams don't do.
And there's now been a few, like kind of like what happened in the Nimmo situation. There's like a few where it's like I haven't seen before. Like it's just like so unfathomable that like you can't believe it. Like you really just can't believe it because it's like some of the stuff I've talked about before, but like it's baseball 101. It's like little league stuff. Like there's no way that a guy should be running backwards and running past the guy who is now running to second base if you were on second base. Like you're just like you have to know you know that rule that you can't have the back runner go in front of the lead runner. Like everybody knows that. So it's just like to see Nimmo sprinting past Soto, like what are we doing? Like they're just not looking to the coaches. They're not looking to the umpires. Like they just assume that they know what's happening when they have no clue what is going on. And this is now Nimmo a few times. And it's like we talked about, but he's the longest tenured Met. He's one of your veterans. And it's like, this is what I've been kind of getting at with veteran leadership. The veterans are not setting great examples because they make constant boneheaded decisions. Nimmo, Lindor, like they're constantly just making these mistakes that you're like, that can't happen. You got to slide, make routine ground ball plays. Like they fail to do that all the time. And it's just the lack of hustle. Like some of that goes on coaching too.
Even from some of the pitching too. Like we've had pitching mishaps of pitching fielding as well and PFPs and things like that. one of the main guys that has been driving me nuts this year, Jose Budo. How many times have we seen him lacking as much? The entire team makes these mistakes. It's not the fact that one guy is the issue. It's not that this guy can't hit in runners in scoring position. This guy can't do. It's the entire team. So what does that go back to? Coaching. But instead, it's always the Mets. They have bad luck. It's the Mets. It's cursed. We got to blame everybody else. Lay in your own shit. It's the only way it's going to get better. Nobody's held accountable. And that's the thing. I constantly make jokes. It's like, oh, Griffin Canning didn't have a good start yesterday. He wasn't good. Okay. We can all admit he didn't have it. But like, how dare he not be perfect? Because nobody on the offense can be held accountable, it seems like. So this is going to turn into an issue if this does not change. I don't care if they're 12 games over 500. I don't care if they are 56-0. You can't play baseball like this and expect to continue to win baseball games. Because teams in the postseason are going to take advantage of those mishaps. The White Sox had a chance to take advantage of many mishaps in those first two games, and they got away with it because the White Sox suck. And then that final game, they finally did. The back-to-back errors by Beatty and that basically took him out of the game completely. Beatty and McNeil basically just took him out of the game completely. Again, it's not structurally sound. It isn't. It's not structurally sound. It's not good baseball. It's not a good product. And I don't care what their record says, because they have been bailed out by a pitching staff that everybody was bitching and moaning about before this season began. They don't have enough star power. They don't have enough this. They don't have enough that. Meanwhile, all the guys that they wanted, all on the injured list, because that's how pitching goes. You can't rely on this pitching to kill themselves for 162 games. That can't happen. Can't. And we have been shown when pitching doesn't have it. We've seen a few blowups here and then. Not many, because the pitching staff's been good. Hitting's nowhere to be found. Nowhere. If you don't put up 2 or 3 run ball across 5 or 6 innings, this team doesn't stand a chance. Doesn't stand a single chance. And everybody talked about, the red flags of that 2022 team. I see, Evan saying, I just don't get how people watch 2022 where their record didn't matter, and they are putting a blind side to this like they did then. Exactly. But to be honest, this team looks more like the 2021 team to me than 2022. And that's concerning, isn't it? It's concerning because that team started off in first place. That team looked great. The Mets were good. The New York Mets, who are good. Remember everybody saying that on Twitter in 2021? And what happened? They faded away. Looks like it, doesn't it? Pitching was fantastic. Yeah, DeGrom you had DeGrom healthy up there. Stroman, remember Stroman? He was an Iron Man. Taijuan Walker had an all-star stretch for you at the beginning of the season. You had your bullpen doing pretty well. Aaron Loop was going crazy. Trevor May, before he completely collapsed, was okay. Remember that? Fly back to that. What was also happening on that team? They weren't scoring. And part of it had to do with injuries. And to be honest, the only thing I think setting apart from this 2021 team is everybody just dropping dead. This isn't good baseball. It's not good baseball. It's going to catch up to you. Sorry. And if you don't want to hear that, if you're watching and you don't want to hear that, you disagree, you think we're being too negative, click off. Nothing's stopping you. Nothing is stopping you. If you don't want to hear what you don't want to hear, we're not going to stop you. It's either you see it or you don't. Good baseball teams don't play like this. They don't. Because again, It's embarrassing the fact that we have to have these conversations in general. Because people will tell me, oh, well, they have such a great pitching staff. Everybody individually seems to be performing well, which some are underperforming, some are not. Well, okay, great. The pitching's doing well, and that's the reason why we're winning. We're winning, so don't complain. That sounds awful like the small market teams that everybody did not want to play like before Steve Cohen came in here. Let's see, you have pitching that has no margin for error. You have an offense that won't wake up and has an awful approach. So congratulations, you're a $300 million version of the Seattle Mariners. And Frank, can you remind me, what do the Seattle Mariners win every year?
A whole bunch of nothing. I mean, a lot of times they
Nothing.
don't even make the postseason.
Nothing. And that should not be a discussion for a team that has Lindor, Soto, Alonso. They have talent on this team. They have talent. But talent don't mean a thing. You got to play the right way. My fellow Ranger fans in here, Evan and Matt, they've been on the show before. They know exactly what I'm talking about here. You have to play the right way. Because all facets aren't, the strong facets aren't going to be there every single time. I don't want to hear these excuses. I don't want to hear, oh, well, it's tough to sweep. The White Sox suck. They're not a good team. On to the contrary of what we saw this week, of Adrian Hauser dominating us. And Mike Vassell, the White Sox aren't good. The White Sox stink. They're the worst team in the American League. So if you find that to be something that you can excuse because of the win-loss record, you're part of the problem. I don't know what to tell you. You'll continue to be part of the problem when this team falters because nothing changes and it gets constantly enabled. I don't know what to tell you because they had it in their hands. Because even if it's tough to sweep, like I said, they were one hit away from sweeping that Dodgers series. So this sounds like an if team to me. That's all it sounds like. Well, if this guy, if this guy, show it. I don't care. I don't care anymore. Show it. It's the same thing, and this goes in the Juan Soto context as well, which we can go into an entire thing after we run down this series. But again, this is one of the worst teams in all of baseball that you just played. You went 4 for 25 with runners in scoring position in that series. If you think that is acceptable because they won 2 out of 3 and we need to keep stacking wins, part of the problem, because it's not going to get better if they keep enabling it. It's true. I don't even know how many times I can say it, because if this continues, you're not going to have the good loss record argument to lose, because they've already lost games where they can't do things with runners in scoring position, and they've made miscues in the field. You got to play the right way. You got to play the right way. Individual talent doesn't mean a thing. It's gotta all gel together. This is a team game. Not to mention a lot of the mistakes that they make are self-inflicted, and it makes you just say, use your head. Use your head. We're not asking for perfection. We are asking for efficiency, which they do not play. I already showed this a few episodes ago on our show. To tally it up, 56 games have been played. 43 of them are considered inefficient with runners in scoring position. 43. Look at some of these teams that they are here with runners in scoring position. Like we have said, are those teams have the fantastic pitching that the Mets have as of right now? No. They don't. With runners in scoring position, I mean, we could go at this all day just by pure success rate. The tier that they are in, that bottom 10, Chicago, man, they're doing great, aren't they? I mean, they just beat us. They're so good. Texas, they just fired their hitting coach. They haven't been good either. Colorado, who we're just about to play, fantastic team. Baltimore has been trash. They've been one of the worst teams. They look like the next coming of the White Sox with all that talent just faltering. Pittsburgh's good, right? Pittsburgh's a great team. Kansas City, have they been? They've been okay. They've had some good pitching performances. Seattle, like we said, offense always holding them back. Arizona, like, do these sound like any good teams? Any of what they're grouped with? Do these sound like good teams? Because they don't have the pitching. And guess what happens when the pitching's not there? Whether you're playing the Dodgers or you're playing the White Sox, that's what's going to happen, what you just saw yesterday. Because your $2 billion, $3 billion offense can't carry any weight. That's sad, isn't it? That's sad. They're just unlucky, though. They're unlucky. Yep. We got to make, this is where we're at. We got to make an excuse. We got to make excuses for a team that was supposed to be a championship caliber team. Grouped in with small market teams that have no resources closer to the Mets. That's unfortunate, isn't it? That's rough. Shouldn't have to be having this discussion. Shouldn't have to be. And a lot of it has to do with, maybe some coaching or maybe just some of the guys in this lineup too. It's two-way street here. I'm so tired of this if talk. It's just, I'm so tired of it, of like, oh, it's poised to get better. Well, that's not true. First of all, they batted .236 with runners in scoring position, or success rate 23.6% from March to April. And in May, which is about to end, you have one more game left in May, it is below 200. 195. So no, it's not getting better. In fact, it's getting massively worse. Insanely worse. You can't tell me that this team isn't poorly coached when the entirety of this team forgets how to play baseball in spurts. It's not an efficient way to win. I don't know what to say. Frank, if you want to add anything before I get into the rundown, it's just like, I don't know what else to say anymore. You can't play baseball like this and expect to win a World Series. You just can't. And you need to have the expectations of a World Series. I'm sorry. The whole half-assing it here is it's ridiculous to me. I'm sorry. Have better expectations. Have higher expectations.
Yeah, I mean, a couple more things on the offensive side. I mean, number one, like you mentioned, most of their games, it's inefficient offense. But the other thing, too, is like they haven't really been able to string together good offense. Like, of like those 56 games you mentioned, like how many is like, you have a game here, then you have to like wait a week, then you had a game over there. It's like, can you show it for a week? Can you show it for like 4 to 5 days in a row of efficient offense when it comes to hitting with runs and scoring position? So it's like you're now about to be in June and they haven't shown it consistently at any stretch. Like it's not like, oh, well, it's a slump or, oh, it's this. Like this has been going on every series the entire season. So that's one of the things that's really frustrating about it, is that it's not just like, oh, they're having a bad May. Like it's all the time. They are struggling with run score position. They've not been able to figure that out consistently. And how do you get consistency? Maybe has something to do with a consistent lineup, which we still are yet to see. I mean, they are still changing it up constantly. Now you have Beatty batting after Alonso, and they moved Nimmo up, and you have Jared Young playing almost every day now. So it's like they're trying like all these different things, yet they're still struggling with runners in scoring position. Now, we had talked, it was probably like last month, about moving Nimmo up, and I said move him leadoff. They put him 2, so it's close. It's not quite a
I
home
like
run.
it.
He's looked a little better, but
Yeah.
that wasn't the issue. It was still that he was struggling with men in scoring position. So it's like, and we've said this before too, but it's like if you put Nimmo 2 or 4 or 6 or like whatever, or Vientos, like take your pick.
Yeah.
If the player does not have a good approach with runners in scoring position and is struggling with runners in scoring position, he's gonna struggle in those situations, whether he's batting 2, 5, 6, 7, or 8 or 9. Like it's gonna be the same problem. So it's like you could move, and that's kind of what we're saying, is that like there's no accountability for the hitting coaches, because it's like you're trying to do all these different things with the players as far as like moving these guys into different spots, play this guy, don't play that guy, yet you're still having the same struggles with runners in scoring position. So all these different lineups that they've tried, they have not been able to figure it out, because they're always doing something different, because they just still have that same issue. And we talked about taking the fastball, swinging at the breaking balls out of the zone, ground balls. I mean, 3-0 swinging. Like, it's just like so many things that, I mean, just drive you nuts that they continue to do. Mistakes on the bases. Like, it's just like so many things that they do.
We're not asking for much. That's the thing. We're not even asking for much. We are asking them to succeed with runners in scoring position at a 28.3% rate. Bat 283 with runners in scoring. That's it. That's it. We're not asking you to go 100%. It's efficient. 283 is efficient. Perfect is 1,000. There's a big gap between 283 and 1,000. I think we all can agree with that. For all you mathers out there. But yeah, I mean, I've been talking about putting
it's also
Nimmo in the top 3.
Don't be bottom 5. It's like, can you be top 15? Like, I mean, top 10 is probably too much to ask, but it's like, just be like on the better half, especially like we've said, is that why are all these other teams who, like we said, don't have the payroll you do, don't have the resources, the talent you do, why are they so much better with running scoring position than the Mets are? Like that shouldn't be happening. So, I mean, that's also just like very frustrating, is that,
I mean, we all know why they aren't. And we will get into that discussion if this continues to get bad going into June against the worst pitching staff probably known to man that's coming up in this next series.
The Rockies are one of the teams that are on pace for one of the worst seasons of all time.
Yeah, they are and their pitching is one of the main reasons as to why. Their hitting's bad, but their pitching has been historically terrible. So again, this is like, we're asking for such the bare minimum here. And I feel like it gets misconstrued of us being negative, of just pointing out things that we don't like. No, we're asking you to play better baseball so you can win at a more efficient rate and not have these red flags when it matters. And like you said, have they ever had a consistent strand of good performances with runners in scoring position? April 28th, April 29th, they had back-to-back games. That was
but that's what I'm saying, though. Like, they can't even do a whole series. They can't do a week, 5 games, nothing, 2 games. Like,
2 games back to back. And that second game, they only had 2 ABs with runners in scoring position.
So that's not actually efficient offense then.
No,
it's
not
like
really.
But it's like, because that's such a lopsided sample size, because like you go 1
well,
for
everyone
2,
needs a
50%.
participation trophy, right?
Well, exactly. But you go 1 for 4, now it's 25. So I wouldn't even count that one, to be honest with you. I would say that's not an effective day.
Well, you're just being too negative. So,
because if you got one guy on, you drove him in, that's 100% and that's 1,000 run scoring position. Like, give me a break.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure that both of those hits came from Pete Alonso, right? Because he's the only one who's been good with runners in scoring position. And I don't want to hear that. Yeah, or maybe Torrens, because I don't want to hear that Pete Alonso being good with runners in scoring position isn't a, something that can remotely tell you that Alonso.
Oh, Carson, by the way, I just noticed this: the Rockies have passed the Mets as far as average run scoring position. The Mets are now the worst in the National League. So there you go.
Hot.
The Rockies have them by 1 point, so that's going to be quite a battle that we're going to see.
Does that not sound like a red flag to you? How like they are in offensive categories situationally with some of the worst offenses in all of baseball? Does that not alarm anyone? Like that? This is the thing. Does that not give you Like, does that not? And this is the thing. This gets misconstrued all the time. I get a constant look on Twitter all the time of saying that I'm just negative and I'm miserable and that. I don't say this to be right or put out narratives or put this out and completely stir the pot. No. So again, I don't say it because of that. I say it because I know this team is capable of more. That's why I say it. I'm not asking them to be perfect, like we said. Again, 12 games over five. Exactly, Ken. They're 12 games over 500. Why is that? Because of the pitching, not because of the hitting. Is that that doesn't seem a little bit alarming given all of this money that you gave to your lineup? All of that. Putting the weight on the most vulnerable position in all of sports to continue to be perfection. Because to be honest, I'm going to tell you right now, even though you're doing this with Montas and Minaya, I would not be surprised. And I hope that this doesn't happen. I'm praying that this doesn't happen because it's going to be the downfall of this team completely because they can't hit. If this continues, pitchers are going to get hurt because they're going to go full force because of the tight windows you're putting on them, the full-on stress that you're going to put them on. It's going to happen because that's literally just how it works. More stress, more workload, more susceptibility to injuries. If you want to do that with the most injured position in all of sports, be my guest, but you're not going to win this way.
No. Yeah, just to show you the disparity between the Mets, and it's like, oh, well, they're hitting 211. How far off are they from first place? The Dodgers are first place at 312. The Dodgers are 100 points higher than the Mets for run scoring position. Even the Cubs are 299. So it's like, and the Cardinals, who like all the teams that have like really good records, Cardinals, they're third place. Tigers, great team, fourth place. Like a lot of the really good teams, they're in this top half that we were talking about. So like the Mets are not even anywhere close to these guys. Nowhere near. Close. So it's not even they can like, put together near. Like it's a wide gap. And like the gap between them and last place, the Mets are 211, White Sox are 206, and the Orioles are 207. Like the way it's going, the Mets keep going down. They could find themselves in last place as far as run scoring position. They certainly could because they keep going down.
Yeah.
Maybe the Rockies will help them out.
They're probably last in May, right?
In May, I would have to see if they'll let me.
They're probably last in May. I mean, they're 195. It's got to be last in May.
Well, I mean, that would be
definitely
the worst.
They're getting worse.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. I don't know because it's not going to last like this. It isn't. And whether the pitching holds up like this, again, you're going to have nights where they don't. You can't go 4 for 25 with runners in scoring position against the White Sox, one of the worst teams in all of baseball, and just be happy because they won. I can't do that. I'm sorry, I can't do that. I can't scoreboard watch. I'm sorry. Can't do it. I've been burned way too many times. Sorry. I'm not trying to say it as a PTSD of Mets fan because the Mets will always Met. But pointing out the problems are the only way that you can fix them. This team is in second place. They're 12 games over 500, but they're playing like they're 12 games under. And if they keep doing that, they're going to be that. Cream rises to the top. We say this all the time. Anyways, let's run down this series. We've already ranted as much as we can because we will continue to rant because there's plenty of stuff in this series that was not great. But other than that, let's get into this full rundown. Now, as for game one, Clay Holmes would make the start and work into the sixth after a 2-out walk with a ball with some questionable balls and strikes. Calls The Mets would turn to Jose Butto to get the final out, and he would close the book on Holmes. 5 2/3 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts on a career high 102 pitches. Butto would come back out for the 7th and only record 1 out, walking Josh Rojas, who would eventually take second against Huascar Brazoban, but Brazoban would strand him at third, striking out Mike Tauchman to end the inning. Brazoban would come back out for the 8th and get 2 outs around a 1-out walk. Jose Castillo would come on and finish the inning, stranding a base runner out of his own. The Mets offense would completely get shut down by former Met Adrian Hauser for 6 innings, just like he did with us last year, right? The Mets would find themselves being down 1-0 in the 8th, finally waking up. Francisco Alvarez would lead off with a single and get pinch ran for by Luis Angel Acuna at first. Brandon Nimmo would get a 1-out single. Acuna would easily go first to third, and Juan Soto would tie the game at 1 with a sacrifice fly. Edwin Diaz would come on for the 9th, working around a 2-out walk. He would toss a scoreless inning on 11 pitches. The Mets would get to work in the 9th. Tyrone Taylor would lead off with a double. Jeff McNeil would be intentionally walked. Luis Torrens, who came into the game for Alvarez, would line a single to reload the bases, and Francisco Lindor, with nobody out, would drive in the winning run on a long sacrifice fly to right field, walking off the White Sox in Game 1 of the series 2-1. Game 2, Tylor Megill would take the mound, and after a rough first inning, surrendering a 2-run homer to Miguel Vargas, he was able to settle in from there. After back-to-back strikeouts in the 6th, Megill would load the bases with 2 out on back-to-back walks, and he'd be pulled from the game for Jose Butto, who would finish the inning to close the book on Megill. 5 2/3 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 4 walks, 6 strikeouts on 100 pitches. The Mets would respond in the first after what was looking like a lost inning, highlighted by a confusing umpire ruling on a trapped fly ball. Pete Alonso would tie the game with his 11th home run of the year. Brett Baty would remain hot, following it up with a base hit to set up Jared Young launching his first home run as a Met and giving the Mets a 4-2 lead. More on Jared Young later. The Mets would add on in the 3rd with a leadoff single by Brett Baty, followed up by a line drive double to right center field to make it 2nd and 3rd from Jared Young. Jeff McNeil would drive in a run with a sacrifice fly to make it 5-2 New York. Jose Butto would come out for the 7th, and thanks to a wide throw to first by Jeff McNeil on a double play ball to extend the inning and a pass ball charge to Francisco Alvarez behind the plate, Butto would surrender 2 runs on a close call fly ball to left field by Miguel Vargas that almost tied the game, but it made it a 1-run game instead. Jose Castillo would replace Jose Butto, and despite hitting the first batter that he faced, he'd strike out Edgar Cuero to end the inning and keep the Mets in front. Castillo would come back out for the 8th and surrender a leadoff infield single to start the inning, but get the first out before Reed Garrett would come on to finish the inning, striking out Luis Robert and Michael A. Taylor after back-to-back 2-out singles by Francisco Alvarez and Jeff McNeil. Francisco Lindor would provide some insurance with a RBI single to give the Mets a 6-4 lead going into the 9th. Reed Garrett would come back out for the 9th and work around a 1-out walk to finish the game, striking out 3 across an inning and 2/3, securing the series victory in Game 2, 6-4. Game 3, Griffin Canning would make his 11th start of the year and straight up did not have it whatsoever, despite multiple defensive miscues behind him in the 2nd by Brett Baty and Jeff McNeil. Canning would only go 3 innings pitched, 4 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 unearned, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts on 80 pitches. The Mets would find themselves down 5-0 in the 3rd, where Mark Vientos would get them back in the game, launching his 6th home run of the year, a 3-run shot to make it a 5-3 ball game. Brandon Waddell would come in bulk relief for Griffin Canning. He would toss 5 innings pitched, 7 hits, 4 earned runs, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts on 94 pitches to save the bullpen workload. Ryan Stanek would pitch the ninth and work around a couple of base runners for a scoreless inning, down 9-3 in the ninth. Pete Alonso would make it 9-4 Chicago with an RBI double, his 43rd of the year, and his 629th RBI of his career to tie Howard Johnson for fourth in Mets franchise history. But the Mets would drop game 3 of the series to the worst team in the American League to prevent the sweep, 9-4. The Mets are now 34-22 on the season, following back-to-back series victories at home. And as we speak, they are sitting 2.5 games behind the Phillies for first place in the National League East. It could be 3 tonight if the Phillies do win the second game of their doubleheader with the Braves after being postponed yesterday. So obviously a lot of takeaways in this series. We've already ranted enough about it. I really, like I've said before, you're able to get away with a series victory like this against a team like this with the White Sox, but you still left too much on the table. You should not be. They should have swept this series. And if people think that it's hard to do that, this is a White Sox team that sucks. They suck. And I can't emphasize, and even if, this is not even trash talk, White Sox fans would agree. This team sucks. They're bad. They're really bad. The next team you're going to play, even worse. So again, unacceptable. I don't care. I don't care if they won the series. I don't care about their win-loss record. This type of baseball cannot happen. And this constant playing down to competition, it's got to end now. Because these are the wins that you need to stack up in order to put yourself in position against the good teams. And I don't want to see this show up against those good teams. I don't care if they took 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers. They're leaving way too much on the table for me to feel comfortable. Frank?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, leaving a lot on the table. And we've talked about this before, but, they drew 8 walks in this last game against the White Sox. And like we said, if you're not stealing bases, not going first to third, all this other stuff, like the walks are just not helping you. You're just going to end up stranding those. They left, like we said, 11 on base, 2 for 12 with runs in scoring position. So it's like, even though you see the White Sox, you score 9 runs, a lot of times you say to yourself, well, if you give up 9 runs, it's hard to win that, which generally speaking it is. But still, it's like when you left 11 on base and you had 12 opportunities to score some runs, you do have a chance. And it's like when you look at the pitchers that you're facing, the guys that with ERAs, pretty much a lot of them over 5, Miguel Castro over 7, Wilson ERA like 6. Like these are, when you have all those factors combined, it is possible. And they are not able to do that because of just all these missed opportunities. So, I mean, that's another thing that's just like very, very frustrating. And like I said before, just the constant lineup changes, it's not helping. Like they're trying so many different things, yet you're not getting much out of it. Like, your 8 hitter walks 3 times. So you have, your number 9 hitter up. Like what's going to happen there? Nothing. So that's just not really a recipe for success. And it's like we've talked about too, but if Lindor and Alonso have not been as good as they were in the beginning of the season, so that's been another thing, because we know Soto's been kind of bad. I mean, to be honest with you, with what you're expecting, like he's hitting 224. Like I don't know how much longer we could use the always unlucky, always hitting the ball hard, always wants, so he'll be fine. Like right now,
no more.
He is hitting 224. He's the lowest on the team. Like,
well, because context matters in this entire situation with Soto, and we can get into Soto for a second, because obviously we know that he's the main focus because he just signed the biggest contract.
Highest paid player. I mean, he has to be the main focus.
And he should. That's what he asked for. So again, I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, I feel bad for Soto because of the overall pressure that he's on. He asked for it by signing that contract, so I don't want to fucking hear it. Anyways, saying that Juan Soto is unlucky, again, this is another thing that the way that how much it's amplified of him being unlucky, it's really hard to say that he's unlucky when he constantly self-inflicts himself. It's really, really hard, especially when you're talking about it from context. Context matters. It does matter. You can't just say, go to Baseball Savant and say, this guy has red circles, he's going to be fine. You can't say that. Listen, this data, it can be helpful, but you can't Bible it. You can't use it as a Bible, okay? Jesus ain't going to tell you about it, all right? He's going to talk about what's happening in front of you, all right? I don't know. I'm not religious. But anyways, when it comes to Juan Soto, you also have to go up off from the context here, okay? Yes, he has all these red circles. But again, if we're going to talk about all these red circles of how unlucky he is, let's go to some more red circles. There is one on his Baseball Savant page that says launch angle sweet spot percentage. Now, obviously, the people that use this don't know what the hell that is because they need to understand what it is in context. Sweet spot percentage is batted balls with a launch angle between 8 degrees and 32 degrees. That is how you reach the barrel zone. So, when it's in 16th percentile, what does that mean? He's hitting the ball on the ground too much. We're going to say that he's unlucky because he hit it hard into the ground? What is he, Eric Campbell? You're an $800 million player. I don't care. It comes to a point of we're paying you way too much. The expectation is way too high to make excuses like this. You can't do that. And we did I did the exact same thing with Max Scherzer. I did the exact same thing with Justin Verlander. It comes to a different point of we are relying on you to give us this production because it's important. It's important that you do because that'll bring the top of this team's success. With Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, where Max would constantly make the excuses because he's a narcissist. That's what he is. We all know that. I'm sitting here like, hey, Max, shut the fuck up. Perform. Shut up. This is all talk. This is another thing of how I see this rubbing off of on other players with Mark. Did anybody see what Mark Vientos said yesterday? Anybody else see that? Let me identify of their struggles with runners in scoring position. He's one of the main culprits, obviously, with runners in scoring position. We know he is. He said, if this is us struggling and we're winning games, imagine when we're not. I don't think the whole season is going to be like this. If team. That's what this is. If.
Yeah.
If team. That's all they are. Because it's going to happen. Okay, show me. Show me it's going to happen. I know you're capable of it. That's why it's frustrating. I'm not saying you suck. I'm saying you're capable of it. I'm not doing it to hate. I'm doing it to break this down. They should be better than this. So if this is the mentality, it's another thing that's being enabled by these hitting coaches. Oh, you fail? Oh, you're constantly failing in a very inefficient way? That's okay. You hit the ball hard. You made contact. These are grown men. It's not Little League. Because again, these types of approaches, self-afflicted. It has nothing to do with luck. Because luck does exist. Bad luck does exist. It does. But most of it is self-inflicted. A lot of it is self-inflicted. We know it's self-inflicted. Because people will constantly tell me the excuse for this is, it's a game of failure. Okay, so if it's a game of failure, why would you do the things that make you more of a failure? Because I'm asking for efficiency. Again, I'm not asking for them to bat 1,000. I'm asking them to be efficient. League average, a little above average. So why would you do the things that make you a little bit inefficient? You shouldn't be having this discussion with this much talent on a roster. Should not be happening. How many excuses are we going to make until we just say this is how it is? This is what this team is. You know, like that age-old saying where they say, since, everybody wants to bring up, old hitters that mean nothing to do with this whole situation because everybody's a hitting coach these days. The age-old saying of, you usually know the identity of your team by Memorial Day. Frank, when is it? What's today's date?
Oh, today's the 29th, sir.
Wow. So that's Memorial Day week, right? We just had it, right?
We just had it. The Mets barely won.
So how many times are we going to say this until we just say this is what it is? And to be honest, it's getting worse. Like we said, even worse in the month of May. So they're going to have to make changes in order for this to be resolved. Because if they don't make changes and they keep enabling this, it's not going to work. Because we can talk about the approach and the efficiency of all these other things. Those are other aspects. But to be honest, a lot of the issues are self-inflicted. A lot of them are mental mistakes. A lot of them are, why are you doing this? And there's plenty of examples. And I feel like at some point we can do a film study of this team with runners in scoring position going pitch by pitch and find something inefficient 9 times out of 10 pitches that they face with runners in scoring position. That's how confident I am in that. I'm very, very confident that this team's approach stinks. It's more of just the thought process, too. We can talk about this thought process. Tell me you haven't seen this. And if you're scoreboard watching, you're a lost cause. Pitcher is losing the strike zone, can't throw a strike. Next batter swings first pitch. In a hitter's count, 2-1, 3-1, never swing. Pitch is right down the middle. Don't pull it. Don't pull it. Slap it the other way. Let's get a single because everybody's so fast. Or don't swing at all.
Especially with 2 strikes.
The amount of times that I see these hitters take inside pitches to the opposite field. Kill me now. Do you always notice that like a starter that plays us, like regularly, they're always out there in the 6th or 7th inning? I wonder why. And wasn't this whole entire approach with Eric Chavez be wear down the pitcher? 10 pitch ABs. I ain't seeing it. I'm seeing hitters who are just mailing it in and just waiting for Pete Alonso to bail them out, who's also not been good recently. He hasn't been good. He's struggled a little bit. And look how far this team drops when they're not. Look how pathetic this offense is when they're not on the top of their game. They're too reliant. They lean on way too many. This is a team. A team. Some have bigger workloads than others, like Juan Soto. Pull your own weight, dude. I know you're capable of it. Has nothing to do with me wanting to hate or wanting to complain. It's what I'm seeing. And what I'm seeing is you're not producing. Because if he was producing, I'd be saying his praises. Same thing goes for Lindor. Same thing goes for Pete Alonso. We have given flowers to Pete Alonso for playing well, and we have criticized Pete Alonso when he wasn't good with runners in scoring position last year. You think we're going to do it any different with anybody else on this team? No. We're not. And there are parts of this team that are flawed that do need to be, changed over time. But one thing I know about this lineup is they can hit. I've seen them do it before. I've seen them do it consistently. And that's what bugs the living crap out of me when you look back on that 2022 team where you had great years from Lindor, Alonso, McNeil, Marte, Nimmo. Cano was doing great. The whole lineup was hitting great, and they just wasted it away. And said, yep, let's get Daniel Vogelbach. This helps. Get Darren Ruff, Tyler Naquin for the bench, and we're all set. That's what frustrates me, because ever since then, 2023, 2024, 2025, you have not had career years from those type of people. Like, has Nimmo has tampered off before. He's had rough stretches. Pete Alonso had a down year since then. Can't forget about Michael Gibbons, of course, the robust relief market from the great Billy Epler. McNeil has definitely not had good years since that 2022 team. Lindor's been really good, but not simultaneously. It always seems like Alonso and Lindor, or three hitters, can't be good at once in this lineup. What did I say? Marte. What has happened to him?
Father time.
Could it be the bread? Could it be the water? Who knows? Who knows if it's the water? I don't know.
It's just beard, Carson.
Oh.
But I mean, the bread could also be a factor too.
I mean, didn't they have like a bread, like it's in spring training from like Ryan Stanek's wife or something?
Yes.
And so the gluten Mets are just not a good thing, because like
the Grimace Mets feel like good. At this point, gluten, not so much.
Yeah, it's so at the
we could use a first pitch from Grimace pretty soon too. If they show against the Rockies, I think
this is the sad part of it. Like, I also just feel like we have like this case of delusion where it's the end of May right now, and everyone's like, oh, the June Mets, they're coming from last year. Okay, where's my Jose Iglesias? He's not gonna just spawn out of nowhere. He's not here anymore. Like, 2024 is 2024. You can't just repeat it completely. We have to understand how hard it was to get into the playoffs in 2024. I feel like this was a roller coaster year that people are just completely forgetting because they made it to the NLCS. There was a lot of things that they did that they needed to improve on. Not to mention keeping the consistency that this franchise has continued to struggle with. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing the leadership. I'm not seeing the lead by example. I'm just not having it as to, I'm just not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. And maybe we do have another rally cry during this series, because that was what happened last year, but I'm not going to rely on it. And it's stupid to rely on it in that way, especially when you have all of this talent on this roster. To be honest, to look back, the fact that this team needed that so much and had to rely on it heavy, the fact that they needed to bring up a 35-year-old Jose Iglesias, to be honest, it shows you how pathetic they were at that current moment. And again, it was great. It was great. It was an awesome run. I love what Jose Iglesias did for this team, but the second step to catching lightning in a bottle, you got to let it go. Got to move on. You have to, because it's not going to stay there forever. So again, they need to figure something out. A change has to be made, and they also have to, bring in the right people as well. You need the right personnel. You need the right people leading. Coaching does matter. I know people say coaching doesn't, but it does. It does matter. Especially when you see a consistent thing throughout this entire team. Because, like, the fact that we can list these things out. Okay, so runners in scoring positions has been an issue, right? How many have struggled with it? The entire team, minus Alonso. And it's not like Alonso hasn't had his struggles with runners in scoring position. That was his main entire storyline. He couldn't come through last year. Coaching matters. Not to mention defensively, too. Fundamentally, this team, not sound whatsoever. And it's not just one person. It's not just Mark Vientos who's been bad at third base. We've seen miscues by Jeff McNeil. We've seen miscues by Brandon Nimmo. We've seen miscues by Pete Alonso. Juan Soto's had a fair share of them. Who else? Acuna. A lot of them. The fact that we are seeing miscues of different kinds just shows you how unreliant it has been and how unsound it has been as a team. Because we are seeing guys run to the wrong base, make the wrong throwing decision, make the wrong this, that. There's so many instances where they are just making in that situation that's just wrong. It's not good baseball. It isn't, and it shouldn't be acceptable for a team that has World Series aspirations. It shouldn't just be, oh, we're just scraping by. We're in contention for this thing. This isn't contending baseball. It's not. This is a team being carried by a pitching staff. And teams that get carried by a pitching staff completely, when their offense completely no-shows and is inefficient, like I said, 43 games out of 56, eventually you get exposed. Teams like the Brewers, the Mariners, we've seen them get carried by their pitching. What happens to them? They disappear. We've seen the bats disappear for the Yankees even in the postseason. We've seen teams get carried by their pitching. They disappear. They vanish. This is why we call this a team game. And individual stats to me, great, cool. How are you going to contribute to this team winning? Are you a winning baseball player? Are you Tyrone Taylor? Are you a Tyrone Taylor? Do you have that dog in you? Are you a hooper? As Matt and Matt and Evan would say. Do you provide things for this team? Because at face value, I'm sure guys like Jeff McNeil, he's got a good stat line, but what is he going to provide? Is he going to help things in the margins as well? Is it going to gel well, or is it just going to be constructed into guys who just set up a double play in an uppercut league? I don't know. I just feel like it's pretty obvious as to why they are underperforming, and it's underwhelming. Like I've said, eventually it's going to catch up to you. And I hope that I'm wrong. I hope it completely turns around. But at the rate that it's going, at the trajectory it's going, it's getting worse. So it can't just go unnoticed because they're up 12 games above 500. Because whether the glass is half full or half empty, you got to look at it from both sides. Things have to get better. They have to play better than this. We should not be desperately asking for offense against the Chicago White Sox. Maybe if we were the Mariners or the Brewers, like I said, we're not. This is a $300 million payroll. Play like one. There's no excuses here. I'm sorry. You can't make excuses. Perform. Show up. And if you can't, we'll find somebody else that will. Frank, anything you want to add before we get into a hitter that blossomed the last few days that we saw the first taste of?
Yes. So, I mean, we've been talking about how, one of the big struggles we think is probably the hitting coach. It could be one of the main reasons why the offense has struggled. And, Andrew on the last episode talked about, well, if you're going to fire the hitting coach, well, you have to replace him. And that's kind of what goes like in any sport. It's always like if things go wrong, fire the coach, but it's always like, okay, well then what is your solution? And Andrew was saying, let Stearns bring in his own guy because he inherited Chavez,
Yeah.
inherited Hefner. My pushback to that, though, is that we've seen the Brewers basically be what the Mets are right now, except they didn't have a lineup with the expectations and talent. Like they always had great pitching, but didn't have great hitting. So I I don't fully. That's the one thing I don't trust David Stearns to do is to find a great hitting coach that's able to get the most out of his players because he didn't do that in Milwaukee, but like he was always able to find, and I've said this a lot, but like he finds these pitchers they never really heard of. They turn out to be great. Hasn't been able to do it on the offensive side. And this is both with the Brewers and with the Mets, because we've seen Griffin Canning, how good he's been this season, minus yesterday's start. That was like a Stern special. But we don't have our Griffin Cannings when it comes to hitting. So I can't just say that, oh, well, if we fire Chavez, that will just fix it, because it won't, because they still need to get a much better hitting coach. And for Stearns to decide who that is, who knows? Like, what is David Stern's offensive philosophy? And even if, and he also still inherited a lot of these players. I mean, most of this offense he also inherited. Like Alvarez was here already, Alonso, McNeil, Lindor, Vientos, Nimmo, like all these guys were here already. He added Juan Soto, which anyone with the brain would if you have the opportunity to.
Yeah.
So it's like it's more so like, what is your hitting philosophy? What players do you have? Do they fit that philosophy? And if not, well, then you have to get a hitting coach that fits what these guys want to do. Because like we said, if Chavez likes to be, I mean, someone had a lot of good numbers in the chat. I wish I could pull it up, but it was like where they were in like pull rate and opposite field and soft contact. And it's like, and he said like it's one of, there you go. This is the one from Matt. So it's like, all of these things are just not, this is not what a team of these players should have these stats. Like it should be higher fly balls, higher pull, higher hard hit, like with guys that the power we talked about, Alonso, Soto, Vientos, Lindor, Alvarez, like these guys, we look at the power tool, are supposed to have it, but you just don't see that as results. And that's what's very frustrating because like we've said, try to take the fastball down middle, you don't pull it. The inside pitch, you're taking it the other way. Like they've talked about in the broadcast, but it's like Francisco Alvarez, even in batting practice, makes a conservative effort to go to the opposite field. Like he is trying his best to go opposite field, which is not, like we said, not what made him a number one prospect in baseball. So there's just a lot of different, like, and what's Barnes' approach? I don't know. But it's like there's just too many different things
it's a better
that don't mesh together well. I would hope so. It has to be, right?
I think Barnes in theory has some good points of pitch recognition because there has been a lot of things that have come out of players crediting to him for certain ABs, like Pete Alonso's home run in Milwaukee, like Lindor's home run in Atlanta and in Toronto. Like there is plenty of things that are wrong, but at this point, I'm okay with anything. I really am. I'm okay with anything that makes a change. I'm okay with it because it needs to be a change. To be honest, it's more of just the fact that Eric Chavez, and we will get into this when this conversation comes. I know I keep teasing this, I don't know, for months now, but when this conversation comes, I feel like when we're talking about somebody like Eric Chavez, it's so extreme. It's the extreme is so high to what he preaches that it's more impressionable on the Mets hitters than any other situation. It's just the fact that I think it's become such a big impression of what you're hearing from him say when he runs his mouth all the time. And then also what you're seeing translated on the field. He has gotten to all of them. Like it is impressionable. It is very impressionable. And to be honest, there's some things that he does that can help a hitter, but he just doesn't put all of that together. There needs to be a priority. And his priority is a priority from 1977. Give me someone from this century That's what I ask. That is what I ask for. That's basically it. And I don't think it's going to happen at any point, to be honest. I think it's just going to continue like this. And if it does, it's whatever. But it eventually does need to be pointed out that these hitting coaches do have to go. And hopefully they hire the right person for this. Hire the right person, like former role players like Eric Chavez, like that certain philosophy. To be honest, he doesn't even have a philosophy at all. Like he doesn't. Like, and we will get into his philosophy eventually. He doesn't have one. And the worst thing you can have, the worst philosophy is like no philosophy at all, of just enabling everything that they do, which is not good. And we all know that they do because there's a story about Lindor telling him to do his job. And we'll get into that eventually. We'll get into that. We'll give you all the receipts. We got all of them to give you a clue of how incompetent of a hitting coach this guy is. But hey, that's not for today. We're already over an hour. So let's get into a hitter of certain context and certain situation, because like I've said, context matters in this certain situation. We know that as to what we have heard recently, Jesse Winker ain't coming back anytime soon. So right now, it looks to be that Jared Young is going to get a decent amount of plate appearances as a designated hitter. No, now why would the Mets go to somebody like Jared Young against somebody else? Who knows if they do, to be honest, because Jared Young hasn't proved much at the major league level. But again, this is a situation as to where the Mets need to find bats, especially with how they've done with runners in scoring position. It's one of those things as to, hitting while we're young. No, that doesn't hit. Anyways, so here is a full rundown of Jared Young, because I think a lot of people saw him in the lineup and they're like, oh, who the hell is this? And they saw him hit a home run and now he's their favorite player. But 29 years old, played for the Duzen Bears in the KBO last year. He had 169 plate appearances there. He slashed 326, 420, 660, 178 weighted runs created plus, 10 home runs, 39 runs batted in, 27 extra base hits. He was originally a 15th round pick by the Cubs in 2017. He did not really pan out, but showed a little bit of power as a member of the Cubs organization. This offseason, he signed a minor league split contract with the Mets for $800K, which is prorated for minor league games and major league games. And the overall batted ball data from AAA Syracuse, very impressive. 57.1% hard hit rate, 92.5 mile per hour average exit velocity, had a max exit velo of 115.5. And he had like a 109 and 97th percentile, 95th percentile, around there. Now, he's played 5 games with the Mets, obviously. 2 for 10. He has a home run, a double, 2 RBIs. He's hit by a pitch. So 141 weighted runs created plus. He's shown a little bit of that power. Now, listen, I don't think it's a overreaction. I think it's an overreaction to say, oh, well, 5 games, this is our guy here. This is going to be somebody who's a piece. But I think that it's also just comes into context of, well, Marte ain't doing anything for you at the DH position. Mark Vientos has not been hitting, whether he is a DH or a third baseman. Winker ain't coming back anytime soon, like I said. So is this someone who we see as a piece in this lineup that can anchor the middle of the lineup fairly well? It's really hard to say that we do. And I think that everybody is a little bit confused in that matter. As for the poll here, I asked if Jared Young, do you think is a legitimate option for DH with Winker not close to returning? 36% of you are saying yes. 18% of you are saying no. 45% of you, which is the majority, have no idea. And that pretty much is something that you can establish with somebody coming over from the KBO. This is first glance, of course, with Jared Young. And he was facing a White Sox team that's not very good. Seemed to bother the Mets lineup, aside from Jared Young. But, Frank, is there a way where you're looking at where Jared Young can be a valuable piece to this lineup? Or do you think that this is just like, okay, in and out, whatever, this is a bat. We'll see what he does. Because to me, I feel like what they're hoping for here is a DJ Stewart run. That's basically what I think they're hoping for with somebody like Winker coming back. So again, who knows what's going to happen here, but it's definitely interesting to see because we know that the talent's there. We know that this guy's got some hitting talent. We know he does. He's got pop in his bat. So we'll see. I don't know. I think I would be on that I have no idea at this current moment, but definitely a discussion to have with the DH position for the Mets as compared to other teams.
It's a very small sample size, but I mean, you also have to include the game he started against the Dodgers. I mean, he even made some loud outs. And you were talking earlier about like Juan Soto having the really bad launch angle sweet spot. So far, very early on, he does have a very good launch angle sweet spot. Bat speed good, not chasing the ball. He's barreling it when he's hitting it. So like he's making solid contact when he does make contact. And that is a good sign for a DH. That's kind of what we talked about. Like a DH should be able to hit the ball, but also ideally should be able to hit with power. And he already has a home run this weekend again against the White Sox. But still, when you look at this Mets 40-man roster, like you mentioned, if Winker is down for an extended period of time, you're like, okay, well, who else is on the 40-man roster? And when you look at it, it's Hayden Senger, who's a backup catcher from Whole Foods. He's not going to fix your offense. Like we know, Nick Madrigal, done for the year. Ronnie Mauricio, maybe. Like we may be talking about him soon, but they're still trying to work his way back from injury. As far as the rest of the 40-man roster, Jose Siri, injured. Jesse Winker, injured. Everyone else on the 40-man roster that's a hitter is already on the roster. So there was literally nobody else left besides Jared Young. And he is a left-handed hitter, which you were trying to replace, not having Winker, and Marte is still here to do Marte things. So I feel like this was kind of all they really had. And like you said, I feel like they are looking for kind of a DJ Stewart-esque, just like somebody provides some kind of something to the offense, hopefully in the power department. And I mean, we'll see if he could do that. But I mean, he is 29. Like you said, he went to the KBO, did well there. But it's just so hard for me to like be like, oh, this is like we got it. We found our guy. This is the Griffin Canning of the offense. Here's Stearns. Oh, what a fine age 1,000 split contract. Now the guy's giving you amazing value. Like I'm not predicting that. If it happened, that would be amazing because they really could use it. Like they could use like out of nowhere big offensive piece to help them out, especially in the power department. But right now, he's giving you better ABs than a lot of other guys would have. So it's something you can do. But I think overall, it's like we still want to see consistency. And even though Vientos has been bad this year, he's been horrible with men on base. I still value what he did last year and in the postseason and his age more than what Jared Young has done for me this week. And, you have got to have Vientos be the DH and Beatty has got to play third base. I feel like those are two things that really should be happening. And then you've got to figure out what you want to do with the McNeil, Acuna, Taylor, because not all three of those guys can play. You have to pick two and one has to sit. So that's for them to figure out. I think they're just good. They should. I would like to see like a week of the same, like, I mean, with rest being considered, but like, can we just get a whole series of like this group of guys and let's see how they do? Because I feel like if you have McNeil at center one day and then Acuna's here one day and then Taylor's there one day and then Vientos at third and now Beatty's at second, like it's just so many things constantly changing that I'm like, can we just see this lineup, the guys play these positions for just a small period of time and see how that looks. Yeah. Because eventually you've got to figure out what your team is, what is your lineup, what is your defense. Because I don't think, because these guys are not playing well enough offensively to where you could just be like, oh, it doesn't matter. I mean, this guy needs rest. We can put this guy here. They're all doing great. That's not the case. A lot of guys are struggling. So you need to figure out like what is the right method, because ideally when you do get to the postseason, you'd want to know that, okay, this is my second baseman, this is my center fielder, this is my number 7 hitter, this is my number 8 hitter. Like, you want to know those things. I don't think it's good to constantly change, especially when you're not having good results with all this change that's happening.
Yeah. Two Cats saying, I want a more set roster. I've always respected the Braves and Snitker for those past years, but it's hard when you have a lot of guys struggling. I just think that, like, consistency in something can bring up that consistency. And again, they still need to perform. They still do. Plenty of guys need to perform here. Like other guys that you have in the minors right now. We know John Singleton is a celebrity AAA bat from the Astros, who is like the, original 4A hitter, if you want to talk about that. Joey Meneses is another one who's there. He has some major league experience, but he is also, he's getting up there. He's 33 years old. I saw that they signed David VR on a minor league contract, which I don't think is really much of a power department DH. He's more of utility. I don't know if they're trying to run out the clock for whether it's Winker or they're trying to run out the clock for somebody like Ronnie Mauricio, just putting his bat in the lineup and not having him play the field all the time. But this swap in and out stuff, it just, again, it brings down this consistency. But I think somebody like Jared Young, I think that there's a decent profile here where he hits the ball hard, lifts the ball in the air, can work some solid counts. He's basically just here to be a bat. And it's better to have the guy be a bat when he can give you this type of power or this type of tool, and he's not making $20 million to do it. Again, there's levels to this. You need those types of role players to come in here. I was getting, roasted and crazy on Twitter the other day when I said that, they're going to try to, force feed this in the way of DJ Stewart, which, like I just said, I feel like that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get a DJ Stewart type of run, catch lightning in a bottle. It's not a bad thing, but of course, we all know how Twitter is. He hits the home run. All of a sudden, he's everybody's favorite player, even though anybody, any genius would say, oh, well, I don't know what he's going to do. He was in the KBO last year. Anyways, we'll see how this does pan out with him. I think that I wouldn't, move him around. I think that, 6th, 7th in the lineup is fine. Exactly what Winker can provide you, slate him into that. I think we saw him play left field towards the end of the game yesterday when he was subbed in. I didn't know he can play left field. I thought he was just first base DH.
Anyone can play left field.
Anyone can play left field unless your name's
everyone in left field.
Unless it's Dom Smith or JD Davis or basically anybody that we put into left field these last few years when we like their bat in the lineup. We'll see how this all stretches out here, but it all depends on if they want to give Vientos more of a run at DH. It all depends who they want to play around the diamond, but they got to figure out, who's going to be the everyday. Because, yes, you have your everyday players, Nimmo, Lindor, Soto, Alonso. And it's but the rest of the lineup, which has been the least consistent, and it's been a problem for a long time, new lineup every single day. Like the catcher position, Alvarez or Torrens, who plays? Who plays more? Who's going to play more? Because Alvarez has struggled, and Torrens has given you some really quality ABs and has been great behind the plate. You have third base. Is it Vientos? Are they going to keep putting him out there? They shouldn't. Is it going to be Beatty? Is it going to be, you're going to put Acuna out there or something at third base? Second base, Jeff McNeil, is he going to play every day? Like, there's so many irreversible things where they're like, oh yeah, we have this flexibility, but the flexibility is of players who are just not, they're very like, they have a lot of weaknesses. Like there's a lot of weaknesses and there's a lot of aspects to their game where they don't provide or what they do provide. Like guys like Luis Angel Acuna, who can give you the tools, the speed, the defense, the base running. But his bat has not been good. And that's the main reason as to why he is not seen as the everyday player. Again, I don't care about platoons, but we can't be continuing to do these platoons in and out of the lineup where everybody has to play. These guys are on the bench for a reason. Like there's a reason why they're on the bench. I just feel like it just needs to be established more. I feel like, like I've said, a $2 billion lineup or whatever that's spent on, there's so much money spent on this team that like things need to be set in stone more, in my opinion. And Jared Young's obviously here for an instance where Winker is out. And we will have an update on Winker right now. Frank, I will swing it over to you for the injury report. We got some of these updates, some good news, some rough news here. Frank, the stage is yours. Here is the injury report.
Okay, starting off with Sean Manaea, Mets starting pitcher, threw 20 to 25 pitches against high A Brooklyn hitters in live batting practice this afternoon. The 33-year-old southpaw is on pace to begin a rehab assignment soon if there is no further concern. Manaea has been sidelined since the first week of spring training due to a right oblique strain. Jose Siri, Mets outfielder, faced Manaea during his live batting practice session today as he inches closer to starting a rehab assignment. Mets manager stated that Siri has yet to mix in some lateral running into his rehab routine, but is still progressing well and ahead of schedule. Siri was placed on the injured list back on April 12th due to a fractured tibia bone in his left leg after fouling a ball off his shin in West Sacramento. Paul Blackburn, Mets injury report Hall of Famer. He of course actually put it down for me. I appreciate that. Made his seventh and final rehab start for AAA Syracuse yesterday. Posted 6 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts on 84 pitches. The 31-year-old is expected to be inserted into the Mets rotation as the 6th starter for their upcoming West Coast trip of 10 consecutive days with games and no off days. Blackburn has been on the injury list since the week of opening day due to a right knee inflammation. Jesse Winker, Mets outfielder, has begun some light running and stretching this week. Mets manager Carlos Mendoza reported that Winker is still, quote, a ways away and shut down for the time being from swinging a bat. Winker landed on the injured list back on May 3rd due to a right oblique strain after making a successful throw from left field in St. Louis. I want to add one thing on Winker. I've noticed, and not so much the past couple days, but this past week or so, I've been noticing like a hand brace on Winker or like a wrist brace or something that he's been wearing in the dugout. And like it shows here, he had an oblique injury. So I'm not sure if he has something else going on, or if that's why I'm thinking
he's just aura farming. He probably,
I feel like he's in like Mendoza said he's a ways away and he's not swinging a bat. Like I think Winker is like we're not seeing him for a while. Like I think he's going to be down for a significant period of time based off what I've seen because I just don't have a good feeling about it. I really don't because the brace thing was just weird to me. Your oblique should not affect your hand, but that was just something that I noticed. But Paul Blackburn, I mean, he's going to finally be taken out of the injury report Hall of Fame. He's going to be put into the rotation, and then we'll see where he ends up. But he's finally
and then he'll trip over an extension cord and be back on there. So
he'll find a way, right?
Yeah,
he'll find a way to get his finger.
Yep, career back. Over. Yep, Gensler. Hey. Gensel don't belong here, man. He's not tough. He ain't tough. Anyways, other than that, I want to talk a little bit more about something that has been very big, a bright spot, like we've talked about with the pitching that has been fantastic and carrying them on their backs when everybody counted them out. Let's go and talk about a piece to this bullpen that has been I don't think people understand how big he has been to this team. That being Huascar Brazoban. It's not really much to say that, yes, he has had a good season, but pretty much every single situation they have put him in, he has thrived. Now, Huascar Brazoban, we know, was acquired from the Marlins at the trade deadline last year for a minor league infield. I think it was like William Lara, something like that. He hasn't done anything at all in the lower levels in minor leagues. So it looks like a David Stearns fleece, such as Huascar Brazoban. Last year, came over here at the deadline, wasn't fantastic, but it seems like he started to finally have this breakout, a brazy breakout. Anyways, crazy, whatever. I'm sorry. I really do apologize for these puns. But either way, we are seeing a pitcher that is basically doing anything that he wants on the mound as of right now. And he is contact managing fairly well. He's getting more swings and misses than he has in his entire career. And not to mention just the overall dominance, the results that he is getting. He has recorded a scoreless outing in 21 of those 24 outings that he has had this year. And he has given up 0 earned runs in those 10 outings where he's had to record 4+ outs. Not to mention, he's also closed games before. He has been in the 6th, the 7th, the 8th before. He's also started games. He started 2 games as an opener. He's faced 11 batters, and he's retired 9 of them as a starter. He's given up no hits, no runs. He's just been insanely dominant. His changeup has been his best pitch for a long time, graded fantastic, like we have said. Hard changeup, which is in the low 90s, that has a 33% whiff rate this year. And then, of course, his cutter, which has been fantastic to left-handed hitters. He's also got a 37.9% whiff rate, which is obviously a little bit lower of usage. But he's more of that sinker, changeup, little bit of the cutter. Fastball is a little bit erratic, but he's able to dial it up. We've seen him reach 98, 99 this season. And then, of course, the sinker, almost nearly 19 inches of run to the glove side. And then, of course, his changeup, which has gotten a lot of swings and misses this year. He's throwing harder than he ever has. He has a 1.11 earned run average. Quality of contact's been insane when you're seeing an expected ERA of 2.85. He is getting plenty of he's throwing strikes as well. You can see 7.4% walk rate, which is fantastic. Was a problem for him last year when he came over here. Not giving up home runs or hard contact. He's basically shutting the door every single time he goes out there. Now, Frank, there is one little piece of information that is a little bit alarming to me long-term here. 32.1 innings pitched so far is a lot. Obviously, he has multiple inning outings that he has had. There's other guys that can go multiple innings in this bullpen, like Kranick, Budo, if he ever gets his act together. I am hoping that the usage of him doesn't rise up, because we saw a little bit of a concern where they had to go into the dip into an unavailable pitcher in that extra innings game against the Dodgers, where obviously he did not have it. And I'm sure his stat line will probably look even more flashy if he didn't give up that one run. Ooh, a one run.
Ghost runner doesn't count.
Ghost runner doesn't count, but I think he had an additional one that was his base runner or something. Yeah. So that counts against him. What a loser. Anyways, but Huascar Brazoban has been a revelation in this bullpen. He's been one of the main reasons as to why we've been able to lock down a lot of these close games. We know that Reed Garrett has been great too. Edwin Diaz has been looking like he's returning to form recently. Ryan Stanek, he's had good, he's had bad. Max Kranick's been good. Huascar Brazoban, you can put this dude in any single situation, and he has thrived. He has thrived in it all year, and especially from a standpoint of last year, where he didn't have it at all. Like he was looking like a DFA candidate pretty quick. But I mean, what have you seen from Huascar Brazoban? I mean, he looks lights out. He looks locked in every single time. And I mean, he's just been a huge part to this bullpen and a huge part to their success this year. And he just keeps going. He's been great.
Yeah, I mean, they made some changes with Brazoban. They had him become a more sinker heavy, and that's
Yes.
resulted in more ground balls. I mean, 89th percentile in ground ball rate. But what's been really key is his walks are down significantly. I mean, he was like 11th percentile last year. Now he's up to 63, which, I mean, doesn't seem great, but compared to where he was, that is a massive improvement. And like you said, they've used him in just about any scenario. You need him as an opener, you need him to go multiple innings in the middle of the game, come in with runners on base. Like he's done everything really well. So I mean, he's done everything they could have asked for a pitcher out of the bullpen. And people kind of forget, I mean, but he is 35. So I mean, that's another interesting thing. He's throwing hard, but like you said, the sustainability is kind of interesting. I was surprised. I remember against the Yankees, he came into that one game after a couple days before he had pitched like over an inning. I was like, that's usually he usually gets more rest after adding like that. And they came to the Yankees, got out of it, but it was not pretty. And then this Dodgers game, because of the rain delay and the Mets not being able to get a hit with runners in scoring position and extra innings, he eventually had to come into that game because he was literally the last arm left. So he's had to pitch more than he should have because of certain circumstances. And that is frustrating, but and it's like not a knock on him. It's more so just on the team. Like you said, Budo having struggles or other guys not getting their job done. So they've had to ask more out of Brazoban. So with what he has, the opportunities he has had, he's done awesome. So he's just been a much more complete pitcher. You're keeping the ball on the ground because even these outings where he does have to go like 2 innings or inning and 2/3, his pitch counts are still relatively low. Like he's still not really over 30 pitches. So he's able to still be pretty fresh for the next outing. So I am curious to see, like, I think this just has to be the role for him. They can't necessarily make him like their 8th inning guy or their 7th inning guy. They have to kind of stick with him in this role of like, it depends on the situation. Like if we have runners on base in the 6th inning or the 7th inning, we can go to him then. Or if we need like 5th inning and 6th inning, we go to him there. Like I feel like it's just going to be kind of game dependent because that's just how good he's been, that you can bring him into any situation. It's not one of those things where you just say, it's like, okay, well, Brazoban 7th, Stanek 8th, Diaz 9th. Like it hasn't been that way because that's how baseball works. And this next 10-game stretch is going to be an even bigger example because you're not going to have those built-in rest days. So you do have to be very judicious with when you do decide to use him because it's like, oh, well, if I'm having to go 2 innings against the Rockies in game 3, well, now I don't have him for like game 1 and maybe game 2 of the Dodgers series. So I'm kind of curious to see like how they continue to utilize him and if he could maintain that effectiveness with an increased workload because of how good he's been.
Yeah, I think the biggest key here, obviously, with every pitcher, there's two things that you want to do with sequencing. It's obviously getting ahead of the count and expanding the zone. Those are the two things that you want to, aim for when you're talking about pitch sequencing. Now, obviously, getting ahead of the count, we've seen him get a lot more chases, especially with the changeup, lots of swings and misses with it, and also getting some swings and misses with some other pitches as well. As a 4-pitch guy, he's using actually all of his pitches at a decent rate this year. But a really big key here, obviously, and this is something that we really saw from the Mets pitching last year that they had to, really try and maintain. It was really a problem, obviously, with the walks coming down the way that they are. When he came over to the Mets, a 47.8% first strike rate against that. This year, 60.70%. Like that is an insane amount. And it's not just saying like that is an unsustainable way because again, he is pitching a lot of innings. Like this is 32.1 innings that he has pitched already. You're not even halfway through the season. You're nowhere near the All-Star break yet. And he's already giving you half of the workload of a regular reliever gives you. So he's giving you a lot of that. So again, every single AB, it always seems like he's ahead of the count. And that is so awesome with him because of the way that he can put away hitters with the good stuff that he does have, such as that changeup, which is the best pitch that he has. So the way that he can utilize that by getting ahead of the count, he's been off to the races this year. He's been fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, last season he pitched 51 innings, and we're like, to your point, I mean, we're a third of the way through, and he's at 32 innings. So he shouldn't maintain that pace, but if he did, you're gonna like close to 90 innings, which would be almost double what he pitched
Yes.
last year.
Yeah. And listen, like you said, he's 35 years old. Again, reliever primes are a lot different from starter primes. Him being in these 4-out situations, I do like. I do like 4-out situations, especially even if it is, with Budo or Kranick, like putting together those 4 outs. That's 12 outs that you can put together when basically shortening the bridge to the closer, all the way from when your starter that we have seen this year run out of gas in the 5th or run out of the gas in the 6th. So again, it's kind of linking those things together. Again, the bullpen has taken a few hits this year. I still really, really, I'm still upset that we lost AJ Minter. I really am still upset because I really think he's a huge part to this bullpen. But again, but other than that, even though AJ Minter was expected to be the 8th inning, 7th inning guy here, these guys have stepped up and they've pitched like those 7th and 8th inning guy. The fact that you can put so
Reed's
many
getting
of them,
better too. Reed's been looking a
Reed
little
has
better
looked
his
good.
past few outings,
Yeah.
and his ERA is also super low, similar to Brazoban. So, and he's been put into some different scenarios. He actually had a multi-inning outing not that long ago. He's had a lot of opportunities with men on base. So they've had a few guys who have really stepped up. And Diaz, I mean, your guy, I mean, he's been lights out this past week or so. So they've had the bullpen has been looking very good lately.
Yeah.
Like even without Minter. Is Brooks Raley going to be in the mix at some point? Hopefully, but a lot of these guys, even like Castillo and Cabrera, with the expectations we had for them, I'd say both of them exceeded. So there's been a lot of contributors.
Yeah, fly high, fly high, AJ. Absolutely, bring the boom from the bench. But it's really hard, obviously, with relievers. They're relievers for a reason. Like they're relievers because they had inconsistent starting careers. That's the reason as to why they're relievers. Very rarely do you see somebody just be a reliever coming out of college or coming out of high school or whatever when they're drafted. Because like guys like Adam Ottavino, he was a starter. When he was a first round pick starter. Like there's guys who originally they start off as starters. It's very rare cases, like the Ben Joyce, like he's a reliever. That is a reliever. You do not, you don't spray at that, and he's still getting,
and even like that, he's out for
still
the
just
season.
he's done for the year. So again, with relievers, they're relievers for a reason. They have those inconsistencies. That's why I was like, oh well, Ryan Stanek, he had a few rough outings in a row or whatever that like it put us in a bad predicament. But I was like, yeah, he's still pitching. He's making quality pitches. Whether he was just missing the strike zone, like he was making quality pitches, the stuff was still there, and we've seen him harvest it before. So that was fine. I was like, okay, he's going for the rough stretch. Let him sit down for a few days. Let him figure some things out. Reed Garrett struggled a little bit with his command a few weeks ago or whatever. Now it seems like he's starting to get it. Like this is it's just an in and out thing with these guys. But as long as you don't see a consistency of just constantly being completely roughed up and, regressing from last year or nothing getting better and nothing they're working on, because again, these are tight situations. So they're going to have to make adjustments, like somebody named Jose Budo, who is driving me insane. It comes to a point as to, you got to make those you got to make those little, those adjustments. And this pitching lab or this pitching, they've done a good job at making those adjustments. Can it translate to the hitting, please? I would love for it to do so, because I don't want to scream about this team offensively. I want to talk about great things like Huascar Brazoban, who's been fantastic. See, we talk about good things here. We're not here to just completely be, when we see something that's good, we're going to talk about it. When we see something bad, we're going to talk about it. All right. So again, it's whatever. So obviously, to recap this entire 3-game stretch against the White Sox, let's do this the best way that we know how, with a segment that everybody loves named Studs and Duds. One player in this series that was very, very good, and we want to give flowers to. One that was not, and we want to hold accountable Frank, I'll go to you. Mets White Sox. What do you got stud for this series?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of inconsistencies in this stretch because, like we said, even game one that they did win was very ugly. So I'll give it to Luis Torrens. I mean, he had a big at bat late in the game where he got on base in the ninth inning, and then even yesterday was brutal, but he did draw 3 walks. And when you look at just how he's performing for the season, even though Alvarez has come back and Torrens' playing time has decreased a lot, he's still been one of the Mets' second best ever runs in scoring position. So like he's still doing that at a really high level. One of the other things that I had not really noticed until I dig deeper is that Torrens is way better on the road than home, which is pretty odd. But I'm pretty sure like his numbers at home, he's got like a 500 OPS and away is like 900. Like it's something really, really drastic. So that's something interesting to kind of keep in mind. So we'll see where he ends up at the end of the season. But I just thought that was very interesting because the numbers were so different. And we know Citi Field's not the greatest place to hit, but still, that was pretty interesting to me.
Odd, very odd. I don't know, but again, that's a backup catcher. Like anything that he gives you with the bat, it's a bonus. Or maybe he's not the backup catcher anymore. Who knows? I don't know. At the trajectory that it's
He's
going,
been playing a little more this past week. Like it's not
yeah,
so much like a 60-40. It's getting, I mean, it's not supposed to 70-30. It's getting a little more 60-40 on, and the way it's going, I mean, you look at just these guys' numbers side by side, like he's probably 100 points better with runs in scoring position than Alvarez. And then
yeah,
even when you're looking at their OPS, like he has him beat by a pretty wide margin there too. I mean, that's another over 100 points. So it's again, like Alvarez is just playing simply because of his prospect status and his age. But if you were just saying like right now, today, who is the better player? Torrens is a guy that you would be wanting to play more. And
yeah.
obviously on the defensive side too.
And even with the hitting as a bonus, obviously with catchers, we don't usually see much offense from them these days. Even from the aspect of what Torrens can provide, he's in that same boat of Tyrone Taylor, where no matter what, he's going to have his name pop up during the game that he starts, no matter what. And even if it doesn't, we know that he's going to call a good game behind the plate. So it's like, and that is also comes to a credit to him. With how good these pitchers have been. I know that McGill has done very good with Torrens behind the plate. I don't know if Torrens needs to be the guy to catch him. Who else has done better? I think somebody else has done better. Is it Holmes? Holmes has done better with Torrens behind the plate.
It
I don't
could
know.
be Clay Holmes. He's had
Because
some
again,
like
like
he has up and
like
down
that, that's
starts
how
for
I
sure.
look at it with catchers is like, yes, the offense has been great from Torrens. It has been a breath of fresh air compared to some of the catchers we've had in the past who've been awful. But when it comes to Torrens, obviously it's all just about making the pitcher comfortable. And obviously you're not going to have that many comfortable situations with these pitchers because of how many knit tight situations that they're being put in right now by our offense that is, failed to show up more than half of the time. So again, when it comes to Torrens behind the plate, what he can provide, it seems like a lot of guys like throwing to him. And he looks like a hitter that is just, he's a professional hitter. Like it seems like every AB is a competitive one. Like every AB is a competitive one. He's not going to set the world on fire. He's not going to give you a bunch of power. He's an opposite field hitter, hits line drives. But again, situationally, that is what he's able to do. And that's what this team needs desperately, which is the main reason as to why the case for Torrens to play is high. And that's bad. That is a bad thing look on somebody like Francisco Alvarez, who they expected to be the guy who they've given a good amount of playing time to. And we're still seeing a guy who looks like a young kid out there. Like he does not look like he's made any improvements. Doesn't seem like he's shown that much consistency. I think it's more of just the consistency, whether it is his bat. Defense has been spotty too. It has been a little spotty. He's better than I think we think advertised as defense. And I know he can get better because he's still young. But I think, obviously there's a change that I think that needs to be made for his offensive part of the game to actually, show as we thought. And then we'll get into that eventually, like we've said. But, that's a whole thing of with Terens. But as for my stud, again, I got to go with Tyrone Taylor, my man. I feel like every time he's uh just like Terens, he's always finding a way to show his worth. His name will always pop up. That's just basically how it is. The huge double that he had to finally wake up a little bit of the offense in the ninth inning, that was big. Man's a hooper, as we said. The hoopist, he hoops. This is Tyrone Taylor. He's always showing up. Obviously, he's hitting at a rate right now that probably, who knows if it keeps up. But this is a winning baseball player who was brought in by David Stearns. It was a big piece. It was a piece that he had, in Milwaukee, and as well as Luis Torrens, who was also brought in. So, you have some of these guys who can deepen the lineup. Maybe they don't play every day, but they can give you quality and they can fill the margins for you. And it really helps in the long run, because there's been plenty of plays that Tyrone Taylor's made for this team where if those plays aren't made, you're in deep shit. Not to mention all the base runners being given up by the defense with guys like Terens. The amount of base runners he's thrown out this year, game changer, complete game changer. Either way, speaking of non-game changers in this series, duds, Frank, I'll go right back to you.
Yeah, I'm going to take Jeff McNeil. He was not good offensively in game one. He was good offensively game two, and game three got on base a couple of times, but more so the defense. I mean, the play he had in game two, double play ball for Buto and Lindor to McNeil, and then McNeil just way off to first base, and that really extended the inning. And the White Sox, they got a few more runs after, and all of a sudden it became a close game, and that inning should have been over earlier. And then yesterday, he does it again. I mean, he's going for the backhand, can't pick it up. So yesterday it didn't get charged as error, which I think it should have. Today it does get charged. I mean, that's it. But yesterday it does get charged as an error. So, like, if he's not, I mean, offensively, he's drawn walks, so his OPS looks good. But still, I mean, the guy is a former batting champion hitting 243, and his defense has not been good in a lot of situations. That's not helpful for winning ball games. So, like you said, these other guys make things to help you win games. But if McNeil's drawing walks, and like we said, drawing walks, not stealing bases, he's just like this team station to station problem, and he's a big part of that because he is a big time station to station player.
Yeah, he is. There was a point, I'd say, that, like, I don't know, for a week, actually. I don't know if it was like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, where like McNeil was like the only hitter in this lineup that wasn't pissing me off. And that is something really, like, that is a bold thing for me to say, because we all know my opinion on Jeff McNeil. We all know how I feel like he fits in here. I don't think he does. But yeah, the defense definitely costly. He's lost a step defensively. We know that he has. But I mean, the rest of the team has also made defensive miscues as well. We know that it's not just him. He's part of it. He's part of what needs to change with this team personally, whether he is doing this, individually. It's just, I just don't think that that type of, that type of play style he has can help you on the offensive side as much as you can. He may do it well individually. I've kind of left him alone a little bit. He hasn't really been killing me at all.
I mean, he has the second highest OPS on
the
team, so like that. I mean, okay, but like you said, like
fantastic.
Just a bench hit hitting 243, it just seems odd. You know what I mean? He's got a few triples that's helped him out, but that's about it.
I do like that he's not. I do like the lack of swinging from him. I do like the little bit less the lack of swinging from him, and he's taking pitches. He's never been somebody who has been chasing, but it seems like situationally when he's in a hitter's count, it seems like he's done that a lot better. He's in it. Like, it seems like he's just has a little bit more competitive ABs. Because obviously Jeff McNeil, when he sees something in the zone, he's going to swing at it and he's going to put the ball in play. That's always been his thing. But like, we're also seeing them pitch around him, and we've also seen tendencies from Jeff where he gets impatient and keeps fouling things off. And I'm also seeing him a little bit more see meatball down the middle, pulling a line drive and not just trying to put bat to ball and spray it and see it dink and dunk everywhere. So I think I've seen more. I still think that, from what you're getting from value from him, it still is a blocker on this team. But he has not pissed me off as much as some of the guys on this team. So hats off to him. But yeah, definitely the defense impactful on two of these games. It seems like it's a high floor situation with him. And which I don't like doing these high floor types of things with that type of contract. That's just me. I feel like you need to elevate a little bit more, especially from the second base side. But again, what's done is done. For my dud, I think obviously we can put Griffin Canning. It was pretty clear that he was not good. But I also want to put Budo in there because again, he is really he's reaching that territory. I said this on last. He is reaching the DFA territory for me. Like he really is. Because I'm not seeing any improvements. I am seeing a lot of give up pitches on 2-strike counts. It seems like he just loses focus. Losing way too many to focus. He's not making good pitches. And he needs to figure something out because he's been the worst reliever on this team. I think if in certain sample, and it does say a lot more of just how good this bullpen's been. But for somebody that we expect to give us multiple innings out of the bullpen and keep us in position in the midway through the game, I don't trust him at all. I don't at this current moment. And he just continues to get worse and worse back from that October run, which it seems like he just hasn't been able to recover from. His head's just all over the place. Mental mistakes, arguing with the umpire while the play is going on, not knowing how many disengagements there's been a lot of situations with Jose Budo where I'm like, you got to use your head, man. This is bad. This is bad and it's costly.
Yeah, you don't want to see mental mistakes, especially from a relief pitcher. Like that's something that is just very rare. So, I mean, if that's happening, there definitely is like a big issue going on for sure.
That's another thing. He has inherited.
Yeah, and he is not good at headed runners
plenty,
either.
and he's just not making competitive pitches.
Yeah. Because he's not getting
runners on
strikeouts like he did last year. So if you're not a high strikeout guy, you're going to struggle with inherited runners.
Yeah, he's getting to that point. And when you see those inherited runners, obviously when he's failed to do so from the stretch, and again, that's more of just allowing the base runners from the guy who they are inheriting. If a guy can't come in with runners on, I mean, no value. No, there's basically no value. And that's what I really liked about this bullpen coming into the year, especially in April when they said, oh, these guys have all been in these high leverage situations. Awesome. And they've all succeeded well. Awesome. Obviously, you'll have some blowups. We've seen some blowups. But these guys have all been good in these reliever outings. Obviously, you have some of these mop-up pieces that can go multiple innings, but also putting them in a situation where they can, succeed. That's how I kind of look at it. And to be honest, if Danel Nunez was ready, Budo would be the first one out of here for me. Like that would be it. But Nunez obviously needs to find the consistency. He still needs to find his footing, of course. But Budo's been just, I don't like what I'm seeing. And you're seeing a 3.81 ERA. So you're like, oh, well, why would you DFA him here?
Yeah, if you
underlying
count the
numbers have
runners,
been bad.
Yeah, but if you count inherited runners, you don't have 3.81 ERA.
Yeah, you don't. And that's the thing. It's like a lot of the underlying numbers and the peripherals have been awful. Like compared to last year, just terrible. Like really bad. And he is getting barreled up a lot more than he was last year. And he needs to make pitches. He really does. And he's not. So it really has been not fun to watch him. I think I tweeted out that he is aggravating enough to make a sober man drink. Like he really is. Like it's getting to a point where I don't know where to go with somebody like Jose Budo when I know that they're capable of bringing somebody else in who can contribute. And most likely Waddell is going to be sent down before the series starts tomorrow. because of the usage they had with him. We know that Blackburn's going to join this team
Yeah, that'd
eventually.
probably be the move, right? You send down Waddle, call up Blackburn.
Maybe, but he made a rehab, so he wouldn't be of use because he pitched 6 innings yesterday, Blackburn, so he won't be available for like 4 or 5 days. So he probably won't be a long relief piece. So it
Well,
probably
like
would
he's going to
be
be the
somebody
sixth
else.
starter. So if
Yeah,
you're adding a sixth
you're doing a
starter, I mean,
turn
you
through the
have
rotation. So they'll
yeah,
call him up eventually, but I
right.
don't think they're going to call him up until his spot in the rotation is needed because of how they're going wire to wire with the innings they got to get from these arms. I think if they were to send down Waddell tomorrow, I think the next guy that gets called up is probably going to be either it might be Zuber, it might be Ward, like it might be one of those guys who are like
I
the
could see
fringe guys that you'll
Warren.
just use them for that.
Yeah.
I hope it's not Ty Adcock because that dude is
No,
awful.
no, don't do
Um,
that.
Chris
Don't do
Devensky, maybe it's Danell
that.
Nunez. Who knows? I don't know. Like that, because like I mean, they've said that like they wanted him to
No,
come
I
back,
think
but they
they
want him to
said
come back for
to
good.
stay back. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think I feel like this would be more of like Warren Divietsky territory where they're
Hagenman
there.
could be for a long relief
Hageman,
option,
yeah, somebody
maybe.
for like a few days, and then that would
Yeah,
be the guy you send down for Blackburn. He's in 6 months
yeah,
because once you have a 6 man rotation, you are going to be one arm short in the bullpen because of the pitcher rules. Like that's just gonna
yes,
happen.
absolutely. And he's just going to need those days of rest. So, and we all know Blackburn needs those days of rest because basically the guy can,
He might break.
step outside, get stung by a bee, and then he's on the injured list for 3 weeks. So, we'll see. I don't know. Either way, let's get into what is upcoming tomorrow. We have an off day today. No Mets baseball. Little bit of a a little bit of a break here, and then they play a really, really good team in the Colorado Rockies, who are the worst team in all of baseball. So no, they are not good. So again, conversations will be had if there isn't a good series or a good output of what we are seeing. We all know what the conversation is going to be, and I'm sure everybody's going to be ready for it. But either way, let's get into previewing this series against a Rockies team. Once again, that stinks. They're on pace to be one of the worst. I think they're on I saw a tweet. What are they? 20 on pace for 26 wins this year right now?
Yeah, they're at 9 wins now, almost a third of the way through. So that's about right.
Oh my God. Wow. So we're in danger of giving them double digit wins. Okay. Either way, game 1 tomorrow. David Peterson will start the series opener following a brilliant outing that he had against the Dodgers last week. And he will face veteran southpaw Kyle Freeman. First pitch will be tomorrow at 7:10 p.m. Eastern Time on SNY. I don't know why I'm talking like a robot. Game 2, Kodai Senga will get the start. It is his 11th of the year. He'll face 30-year-old right-hander Antonio Senzatella. Great name. First pitch is Saturday at 4:10 Eastern Time on Pix 11, or Pix for some people, or CW, or whatever they call it these days. And of course, Game 3 will be Clay Holmes. He'll take them out in the series finale, and he will surpass 63 innings in a season for the first time in his career as a starter. He'll face rookie left-hander Carson Palmquist. I don't know really much about him, but he has a real loser first name. First pitch will be Sunday at 1:10 Eastern Time on SNY.
140, Carson. Now the new days
140.
they do
Whoops, I had
140.
140. 140. Whoops, sorry.
They don't do
Sorry,
110
my
anymore.
bad.
Now it's all about 140. 110 was
140.
the old days.
Kyle Freeman. Did I say Freeland? Did I say Freeland wrong?
Yeah, it's
Guys,
supposed
we've
to
been
be
on
Freeland.
it
He called
for
him
2 hours. My
Freeman.
bad.
Yeah.
Anyways, Freeland. Okay. Whoops. Typo. It happens. Anyways,
Maybe the other one would be better because, like we said, all their pitchers stink, so they might want Kyle Freeman instead.
Yeah, Kyle Freeman, Kyle Friedland, who's actually pitched okay, but his team behind him is pretty shit. But anyways, Kyle Friedland, that's his name. Okay. Cool. My bad, Mr. Freeland. My bad. Anyways, thank God for no Apple. Yes, that is great. We don't need to
And no
listen to
ESPN.
no ESPN. We got Gary, Keith, and Ron. We get to watch our guys there. That's the only downside to this team having the expectations. Lots of national television, which sucks. Either way, Frank, I'll go to you. Listen, I don't really want to spend much time on this because this Colorado Rockies
No.
team is so awful.
Yeah.
They're bad, terrible. Sweep
They're
the
really
series.
bad.
Sweep them.
They should, because I mean, like you said, like they're at 9 wins, and similar to the White Sox, but they're 3-25 on the road. So like they're bad in general, but they're even worse on the road. So like you're kind of facing a 3-win team. So it's like you shouldn't lose these games. You can't lose these games. Like you have Peterson lined up, Senga, Clay Holmes. Like there's no really excuse to lose any of these games, to be honest with you. Like usually I highlight players that are having a good season. Like everybody sucks. Like they're all bad. Ezekiel Tovar has some talent. Ryan McMahon this year has not been good. In the past was good. Michael Toglia hit 1,000,000 home runs against the Mets last season because Colorado was like
he struggled a lot.
Half. Yeah, they just picked up Orlando Arcia, who the Mets and Yankees put a claim in for. Arcia is on the Rockies, so maybe former Brave, he might do some stuff. But other than that, like this team really stinks, like really bad. So in every aspect, they
and I'm
really
sure
should
Jacob Stallings will pinch hit against Edwin Diaz off the bench.
He could. That certainly is possible. But it's just one of those things where it's like we say, oh, it's hard to sweep a team, but when the team is historically bad, it's not difficult. Like you really should. You really should get it done.
I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't score more than 6 runs in every single one of these games, it's a disappointment for me. This is how
that's
bad
not happening. That's not happening.
That's how bad this team is.
I wouldn't be surprised.
We'll have a disappointment.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised if the Mets sweep this series and still have like those inefficient offensive performances, because they've done that before. Like in this White Sox series, they won it, but they stranded runs a bunch of times. In game 1, the offense was not good and they still won. So I can still see them sweeping the series while not scoring a lot of runs because Colorado's that bad.
Yeah, we'll see. Again, I did not realize they had Mickey Moniak, for former number 1 overall pick, he had some success with the Angels last year, right?
Barely.
He's been a flop.
Yes. A lot of flops with the Rockies.
Yeah, a lot of flops on that team. Not really much to be happy about. Let's not give
their
them
highest paid player, Chris Bryant, is hurt again, so they just like the one time they do spend money, they took the guy made of glass. Like you can't make it up.
Yeah. And they have a few pitchers on the Feltner and Gomber, who were 2 of their top guys. I'm pretty sure Gomber was in the Arenado trade, right? I think so. Yeah. Okay.
He was. Yep.
Yeah. And this bullpen, terrible. What was his name? He had a lot of people were talking about him, Victor Vodnik, because he's struggled. Yeah. Okay. So it's really just constant on.
I remember him probably shutting down the Mets last year though. So
probably did. Anyways, they have a little bit of young talent on this team. Don't take it for granted. Just go for the jugular, please. Just beat them up. This team stinks. And to be honest, even if they do beat them up, they should beat them up. Okay, please. This team's bad. They're really, really bad. Historically bad. They're on pace to beat teams from the 1800s that stunk. That's how bad they are. Please look like a good baseball team. Play good baseball against the worst team possibly in history. Didn't think it could get worse than the White Sox last year. And that 62 Mets team, I think everybody's got to apologize to them at this point as to what we are seeing. Obviously, it's more of just, the situation with what the Dodgers are doing. That's how you get teams that are just as bad, but different situation. I'm looking at them ranking as a team. They are 30th in average, 29 on base percentage, 29 OPS, runs scored 30. They are bottom 5 in nearly every single category. The only thing that isn't in bottom 10 or bottom 5 is walks, but they're still 18th. Walks from their pitching staff, but they walk a lot of guys from their bullpen. That's how bad this team is. They're so bad. Terrible. Dog shit. It's not even June yet. They already have a 0% chance on Fangraphs to make the playoffs.
Especially in that division.
Especially in that division. They're screwed. They have a 161 win percentage. This team stinks. I don't know how many times we can say that. They stink. El Stinko. Bad. I don't know how many times we can say this. But anyways, stack up the wins here. Here's your chance for everyone's precious win-loss record. Bring it up right here. Sweep this team. Would be awesome. All right? Because like we said, the team isn't good. Either way, let's wrap it up here. Frank, final words. Obviously, is your Jose Iglesias going to come like it was last year? I don't know. We'll see.
No, he is currently under contract, so I don't think Iglesias is walking through that door. But like I said, the Mets, they are a 1 point difference between the Rockies as far as runs in scoring position average. So we'll see if maybe they could pass the Rockies again if they hit once with runs in scoring position. But it's interesting. We talked about coaching changes, and on May 29th in 1990 is when the Mets hired Bud Harrelson as their manager. So this is a date that they've made coaching changes. So that doesn't mean it's going to happen today, but it has happened before.
Yeah. When you talked about runners in scoring position of the two teams just flip-flopping back and forth, that obviously always reminds me of like these two teams that are so bad is that 20-inning game when the Mets played the Marlins. What was it, in 2012? I need to look this up here. It was June 8th, 2013. Brutal year. The Mets in that game, they were 0 for 19 with runners in scoring position. 0 for 19.
Yeah, and you didn't have ghost runners back then. That's why those games. Nope. I mean, well, even the chance the Mets they didn't come through. But you feel like even if they did have runners at second, they still would have had a tough time.
Yeah, that's insane. 0 for 19. So yes, it could be worse. Could it be worse? Yes, it could be worse. But the talent on this team, we should expect them to be efficient. Should expect them. Please do. It would be great. We don't want to have that conversation next episode because if they do lay another egg with runners in scoring position, whether they get swept or not, or sweep this in or not, we're going to have that discussion. I know everybody's going to be seated for it because it's going to be fun. Trust me. Make us push it off. Make us push that kick that can down the road as far as we've already have. Please make us do it. Make us look like idiots. Destroy a bad baseball team for once. Don't make us bite our nails in the 8th inning in a 1-run game. Don't make us do that. Destroy them. Destroy them like the bad team that they are. Either way, we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. For those of you watching or listening on playback, you want to join the conversation in the future, make sure to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel and turn on post notifications to not miss when we go live, which is after every single regular season series of games. Also, make sure to follow us on X and on TikTok for Mets Weekly. It'll feature Frank's post-game analysis, instant post-game analysis after every single regular season game. Follow all of us individually, including our third Mike, Andrew, who is not here. And of course, let's go Mets. Off day today. Move on to Colorado. Continue this this stretch of bad teams and beat bad teams. That would be great. Let's go Mets, and we will see you guys next time.